Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 8th, and this is Morning Market Movers, where we look at hot spots in the markets for the day and do some live analysis for day trading. I'm Todd Rich with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. It is a very quiet, calm day in a week that is also eerily calm. Things are just taking a pause after the wild roller coaster ride that we've had so far this year. Not a lot to talk about today. Uh, we're going to take a look at the carry trade. We'll take a look over at the pound yen. Going to take a peek at oil. Oil down down near $90 a barrel, which is crazy to
Down.
say.
It's
Ooh, it's
down, right?
dropped. It's and it's at
Buy now.
90.
Oil's low. $90.
Holy cow! And then obviously we want to remind you that Thursday, that's the one day this week where we expect to see some volatility. We got those CPI numbers coming out, and we'll get a peek at inflation that could cause some interesting action in the markets. Now, what I am going to encourage everyone is Brian's going to be doing a full-blown market analysis in
Yeah.
3 hours. So we'll
Hopefully we'll
get
have more
through
than.
the open and then we'll run through everything. So if you haven't registered for that, that's in 3 hours and 15 minutes. I just dropped a link to join that. But let's go ahead and take a peek at what we do have going on this morning a little bit. Before we jump into it, I do need to share that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We're doing this for your education purposes. Out of the gates, we are going to just talk a little bit about the carry trade that we've mentioned before. It's something that has really disappeared. I'll let Brian really explain it, but it's capturing that interest rate spread every single night. And you're actually seeing people starting to put something on. I mean, that's the pound is paying 0.5%. The yen is, I think, is the yen still negative? Or are they
Yeah,
just at
zero.
zero? They're at
Zero.
zero.
They don't pay you to borrow money.
Okay. So they're
Just zero.
zero. Yep. So and you're seeing that actually take effect since the going into the UK raising another 25 basis points. But Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you again. Very quiet morning. Equities pretty much flat. Uh,
Hmm.
FX not doing a whole lot. Commodities not doing a whole lot really. But let's go ahead and
Yeah.
just take a quick peek before we do the full blown session in 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say globally, again, looking at the 24-hour pip changes across the board, there's nothing really that is glaring. The biggest mover is the pound yen up 65. And again, I'll mention kind of why that you're going to start seeing that a little bit more often. The euro pound is down a little bit, 29. And again, the euro dollar down slightly, but then pound dollar up slightly. And then dollar, a little, it's hard to say dollar strength because, everything is really just kind of flat. Then you have the Aussie dollar thrown in there as well. So there's not really any major movement. Like I said, it's kind of, this is an extremely low week today. The only thing we have is 9 p.m. New Zealand inflation expectations. All the important movers at this point are over at the Olympics. It's kind of, it's there. And I will say, I think, there was news yesterday of a skater having COVID, and I was like, a guy that was supposed to do well. I was like, man, there's going to be so much controversy. Did he have COVID? Did he not have COVID? And did it take him out of Olympic contention? So that's kind of like the hot soap opera drama today. Besides that, there's nothing else. I mean, even on the Russia front, the only thing we have is that, warships are on their planned path to the Mediterranean Sea. And again, they typically, they have them there normally anyway. So it's not like this is something special and it's considered, it's like, hey, Russia's sending warships and it's only considered minor impact of news. So, really, I mean, the only thing I think news-wise to watch out for is, there's an article this morning talking about small business owners are reporting inflation is the biggest problem since 1981. One little bit of gem in here that I think is interesting is yesterday we talked about how everybody, all the predictions are that we're going to slow down in the second quarter and that it'll slowly start to get better at the end of the year. But not by it basically first quarter is going to be down, second quarter is up, and then the end of the year kind of tapers. And basically they're saying fourth quarter could actually drop a little bit. But right now, second quarter is kind of where we're going to get a rebound from this first. Business owners think the next 6 months are going to be great. So that's why they're still kind of holding in there. But again, inflation is a big deal. Okay. Small business owners, and again, there's the big debate, big business versus small business. Small business really what kind of drives the economy. A lot of people get unemployed. Small business, there's a lot of them out there. Typically, small business has a lot of control over elections. So with inflation here, this is going to come up later in the year, and it's also going to put a lot of pressure for rising interest rates. So,
Yep.
as far as the market goes, that goes over in a kind of the carry trade that Todd was mentioning. And again, this is the pound yen chart. You're seeing it's up a little bit, and it's the biggest mover. In the last 24 hours, it's up 63. That's the biggest mover out there. So just for you guys, if you're wondering what the heck the carry trade is, okay. So basically, currencies is a little bit different. Okay, you'll notice everything, all the currencies are currency pairs, right? Like the pound yen. What it is if you're going long this, you're basically buying or you're borrowing one of them to buy the other one. So like if you buy the pound yen, what you're doing is you're borrowing yen to buy the pound. That's why it's a relationship between the two, and vice versa. If you sell this pair, you would be borrowing pound to pay the yen. So what the carry trade is obviously every country sets their own interest rates. We've been talking about that for a while. It's like the latest, it's like the biggest word this year, and it's going to be really why currencies is having such a great year already and continued forward. But what it is, it's just like you go to the bank, you borrow money, you pay an interest rate. It's the same thing here. If you borrow money, you have to pay the interest rate to have it. But because you're buying it on the other side, if they have a high interest rate, they pay you to hold the position. So unlike a stock, like if you own a stock and the value basically does nothing in a day, you don't make anything. Currencies is different in the fact that you get paid the interest rate. So the interest rate differential. So as Todd just mentioned, the pound, they have now raised their interest rates to 0.5%. The yen is at zero. So if you borrow at a zero rate and buy the pound, you are now making that half percentage point by just holding the position. And it gets paid out every single night. Obviously, it's 24-hour market. They can't pay out on Saturdays and Sundays. So Wednesdays is a triple day. On Wednesdays, you get 3 days worth of interest. So again, Wednesdays is a very big kind of rollover day for currencies. Now, you may say, well, 0.5 is not that much. You're right, 0.5 is not that much. But if you have a checking account, it's two or three times your checking account. You could buy CDs for a year and lock it in and get a little bit more than that, but it's locked in for a year. Currencies, you hit the sell button, bam, you're 100% liquid all over again. So it can be a short-term investment vehicle. Now,
and people who have large, corporations sitting on tons of cash. That money,
banks do this a lot.
Yeah, it's dead money. At least
banks are not going to buy CDs.
Right, they're going to get something for it, and you can get out of it
instantaneously. Hit the button.
Right, you can always just liquidate the position immediately.
Yep.
So,
it's something that we talk about, like the big money. We talk about the investment firms and the hedge funds and the banks that are controlling the overall stock market. What happens is countries, central banks, even large corporations will start taking advantage of things like the carry trade and hedging themselves in currencies. So they become the big players, where a hedge fund is nothing in currencies. They just don't have enough money to manipulate it the same way. But if a central bank or, example is like my dad used to work for IBM, one of the deals that he worked on, he sold an $8 billion computer to a company in Germany. That's a lot of money. It was a huge mainframe system. Absolutely. I mean, I think it was like the German hospital system or something. They just don't write a check for $8 billion. They hedge themselves in the currency market, and they got to move money back around again. And they use the interest on top of it. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes people don't know, but it becomes a very, very popular trade. So that's something tomorrow and Wednesday that we should see some type of a pop. And if you're ever looking at a chart and at the end of the day, all of a sudden it bounces, it's probably that rollover that's taking, the market is adjusting for the rollover. So just something to watch out for. It's not something we can necessarily trade at Nadex. Nadex is not paying you interest rates, but it's something that we're going to start seeing more as interest rates start to rise. The pound or the yen pretty much stays always at zero.
Right.
Yeah, but you're going to see the pound yen get popular. Heck, if we're going to raise 2 or 3 or 4 times, the dollar yen may actually this year become a carry trade if it gets to be higher, right?
Yeah.
And again, you don't have to do anything. If you hold it, you get paid the money. You'll see a credit to your account. Now, vice versa, if you're on the wrong side of it and the interest rate differential is the opposite, you'll see a debit taken from your account every day. So it's kind of a cool thing to trade. And again, we just wanted to add a little bit of education on the day when there is really not
There's
moving.
Nothing else going on, so we thought, hey, let's
and even tomorrow, the best thing is oil. And again, what we know to do today is look at our API report. So I'm hoping at noon today we'll have a little bit more data to look at. Right now, the indices themselves even are just so flat right now. I mean, they're kind of mixed and they're just kind of, down slightly, but the Europeans kind of send it down. And whenever they kind of send it down, it typically runs right back up again. And you're seeing the YM is basically just flat. I mean, we had the levels from yesterday. So, I would say right now, and this is even a 15-minute chart, and there's still nothing exciting on there. So, the last thing I'll touch on is oil. Yesterday, we talked about oil breaking below the 89.93 level. It was a basing level, and we had a bit of a racetrack. It has pulled down, came back, and touched. So we are kind of in a little bit of a Harry Potter setting. It is below 90, so people will talk about that. Problem is, it's already down 2% for the day. Question is, how much more can we run off of that? But there may be a short opportunity with oil pulling back as well. And again, we know that we have a target level sitting at approximately, what, 88.64? But that's kind of the only thing out there. Natural gas is up a little bit. Gold and silver are exactly the same percentage. So they're not moving. The cryptos are down a little bit. Bitcoin is 0.8, Ethereum 1.7, TLT, bonds, totally, it's going to open up lower. But again, that's because people are going back towards the risk assets. So,
Yeah.
it's one of those mornings where there's just not a lot of European kind of influence on the markets. What I would say is see where the opening print goes, drop your 15-minute charts and literally start checking the indices and say, okay, well, wait a second, we're pulling back to a level where we had some buyers and I don't know, maybe we're long at the open. There's a level kind of sitting right here. If we base in it, that could be a long opportunity in ES. NQ also has a similar one, kind of sitting right down there. If we start to base through that level, and again, start to bounce, there could be a long opportunity there. YM's a little bit higher. It's not really in any risk. If it does pull back, there's another level sitting right there. And then Russell's kind of the same thing. It's in a level, but I don't like this one as much. It's hit it a bunch of times, but there is one just a little bit lower as well, a buying opportunity. So see how it unfolds over the next 15 minutes. It may be pretty flat. I would say what I would do right now is definitely mark your calendar for 12 p.m. today. Hopefully there'll be some more movement as well as what we can talk about the setups for overnight.
Yep.
And also, don't forget, if you can attend that session, don't forget to look at the API oil inventory report. That will start having some influence on oil. And like I said, oil is it's down 2% already. It's kind of in a short level for us. But again, that'll start crafting where we go with things in the overnight. So that's all I got for today.
Yeah, just not a lot, and
Yeah,
not
it's
a
just not
lot.
that much there.
We're not right. We're not going to start making stuff up. So with that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. I'm available as well. You can email me at todd.rich@ig.com. Brian is also very accessible. Please feel free to email Brian any questions for him. You can email Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. Just a quick recap, it is a quiet day in a quiet week, at least for the moment. We do have some more earnings coming out. And I think we're about halfway through the earnings season. And so far of the stocks of the S&P 500, of the stocks, the companies that have announced earnings, fully 3/4 of them have beaten revenue and earnings expectations, which is interesting. Companies are performing very, very well. We still have more earnings to come. Disney, I know, is tomorrow, which could
They had
mean
plenty
an
of Star
impact on
Wars
the
stuff.
Dow.
They had Grogu, so they'll be okay.
And when there's only 30 stocks in the Dow, the Dow
Yeah.
could potentially move with Disney moving around.
Yeah.
And then yeah, let's come back. I dropped the link in. We'll be back in 3 hours to do a recap after we see what happens on the open. And then, right, the other thing I wanted to remember is CPI is this Thursday. So thank you all for joining us. That's what we got for you today. Come back in 3 hours. If you can't join us then, we'll be back tomorrow morning. If you like what we're doing here, please give us a like. And we will catch up with you either in a few hours or tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining. Good luck in the markets, everyone.